Chapter 10. Crimson's True King. Okay. Don't know what that means. Hopefully nothing bad. As always, it was much easier to realize how significant a part of my life something was only when it was gone. For instance, I didn't realize how much I would miss Caissa until we were no longer meeting for our training sessions. Until I didn't see him at dinner. How had this man I didn't even know a couple of months ago managed to worm his way into my heart? Without him, this place was so much colder. And yet, I didn't want to leave it. I just wanted him to come back. Jack took over my training for those days when Caissa was gone. Goody. Since my arrival, I hadn't done too much work on mimicking rook abilities, so that was our focus. It was more than a little strange. I did not think of myself as a strong person in the sense of physical strength, so being able to throw a punch that could actually do damage was odd. Before we started sparring, Jack had me practicing on a punching bag, until I split it open, sending a cascade of microfoam to the floor. That was when he decided he'd be my target. Okay, brave man. I won't lie, that helped motivate me. Let it all out, girl. Not that I wanted to hit him particularly, but he had an annoying way of antagonizing me that made it more satisfying than it would have been with anyone else. Alright, let's check you out in your workout clothes. You look pretty good, I'll admit.
You see, you're practically a pro at this.
He blocked a kick and the punch that followed. I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, come on now, you don't have to be modest. You almost actually hit me that time.
If you'd stop bouncing around so much, I'd have already hit you 10 times over.
That isn't the point, is it?
He made a feint to the right, but I blocked to the left because I didn't even have to look ahead to see that coming. I winced as the blow vibrated through my arm. I didn't have a grasp of how hard he was hitting. Not as hard as he could. It was still a sparring match, after all. But I had a feeling even though he was pulling punches, it would have hurt if I wasn't working so hard to enhance myself as well.
Nice block. You're doing great.
I don't need that kind of patronizing praise from you.
What makes you think I'm being patronizing?
That stupid, smug grin!
I wasn't aware you liked guys who just glared at you all the time. Then again, I guess you do like ooh!
Managed to nearly get him with a good front kick.
Not bad. That almost caught me. I shouldn't be surprised. It's so easy for queens to mimic rooks, I should probably assume you're going easy on me.
What makes you say that? He blocked that punch easily as well, and the follow-up with my elbow before I retreated. For all that I was like a pro, I wasn't landing many hits.
My sister was a queen rank, you know.
Oh, come on. We're getting background on you too now? Stop with your main character syndrome. Okay, fine. That is interesting, I'll admit. Okay. I assume we'll learn more about this in your route, probably. Unless you just want to divulge everything now and leave nothing to the imagination when we actually get to your turn. Wait, what? Sister? And... was? Maybe that's why he left Endgame. Uh-oh. The plot thickens.
Careful, butterfly.
I let out a yelp as I backpedaled from a low punch. I didn't know you had a sister.
Oh, I reckon you've heard of her, though. She was Endgame's last queen.
Holy crap! You just blew my mind, Jack. Holy, the last queen was your sister? No wonder you left Endgame, but it sounded like it was really bad what happened. Oh gosh, I have so many more questions now. That whole thing just sounds real messy. I don't know what happened, but it wasn't good. I stopped where I was and pushed his hand away when it came into view again. Sparring match forgotten. The last queen? The one from that incident 10 years ago?
We're not done with our match yet, Morgan.
You're not going to drop that kind of bomb on me, then expect to continue having me watch you block my punches like they're nothing. Are you serious? Your sister was in Endgame?
So was I. A long time ago.
I wasn't aware they let people leave.
They don't. Not unless you die. Like Sylvia did. Though she was an N class, not a fairy Esper like yourself, I reckon I still understand a fair bit about how your powers work.
Was she the reason you left Endgame?
Yeah, well, they just threw her away like she was nothing, to protect their king rank. And not just Sylvia. My mentor was sacrificed. And a friend who barely survived. Delphine's a hellhole, but Caissa doesn't just throw people away like that.
I'm so sorry. Okay, I will admit he's got a good reason for leaving, but I feel like there's another side to the story I haven't heard yet. He's convinced that it was to protect the king, but I don't know. I feel like there's something more to that.
What are you sorry for? You were just a little kid when it happened.
You aren't even that much older than me, you jerk.
You grow up fast in that place.
Here too, I'd imagine.
Well, I spent my childhood here, so I can attest to that. Never thought I'd come back. Definitely didn't think I'd meet up with Kay again.
Okay, so you had history with Caissa as well before you joined up with him. This is all making so much more sense. I'm getting a much more well-rounded picture. I've been completely distracted from Caissa now, and I'm fully invested on the Jack train. Which was his plan all along, gosh darn him. But still, everything's making a lot more sense. Again?
Yeah, I knew him when we were kids.
He moved towards me again, and I saw the jab a split second before it came my way. I blocked it and sidestepped him to throw one of my own. Guess he wouldn't let me get out of the match that easily.
He and his mom lived close to where Sylvia and I were staying. Back then, Caris hadn't learned about him yet, so Kay and his mom just tried to scrape out a living where they could. Same as me and Syl. Kay's mom, well, she was like a lot of people, just trying to make it through.
That sounds awful.
Kay spent most of his time trying to earn what little he could by doing small-time machine and equipment repairs.
I aimed a sidekick at his torso, hoping to slow him down just a little, because talking while sparring was distracting, his whole point, no doubt. It was a reinforced kick, but Jack was a rook too. He stopped it, grabbing my leg and giving a twist that sent me to the ground.
Can't drop your guard, Butterfly.
Ugh, I wasn't trying to drop my guard.
You're still the one on the floor.
Fine, fine, I'm getting up. I got to my feet and rolled my shoulder carefully, taking my stance up again. So you and Caissa were friends as kids?
As much as you can be friends when you're both trying to make it through each day. But after Endgame recruited me and Syl, I didn't see Caissa again for a long time. After she died...
He shrugged.
I ended up back here, and he found me.
I didn't know the two of you went back that far. Why did Endgame never recruit Caissa? I mean, he's a king rank. I've heard recruiting people from Delphine can be a little difficult for them, but they found you.
They found me on accident, really. And Caissa's an F class. They're tricky for Magnus to locate, so Endgame didn't know about Caissa until he was already here with his father. I don't think they could get him away from here as easy as that. Same with Damos.
The mysterious older brother.
Mysterious?
Well, Caissa doesn't talk about him much. I've seen that photo of him in Caissa's room a few times, though.
To be honest with you, I never met him. He was gone by the time I joined up with Crimson. But he was important to Caissa and Caris.
When it didn't seem like Jack was going to start our match again, I lowered my hands and relaxed my stance. Caissa seems to think Damos was the only thing he and his father ever had in common. Caring for him, I mean.
Well, I don't think that's the only thing they had in common. But they both loved him, that's for sure.
What happened to him? Jack sighed and went to pick up a towel from where it was draped over some wall equipment.
At that time, it wasn't widely known Caissa was a king rank, but many knew about Damos. A lot of people were loyal as hell to him, but there were plenty of people who wanted to get their hands on him too.
That whole planetary AI thing?
Whoever controls that guy controls pretty much everything. One of the only things keeping Caris from ruling this place is the fact that no one knows where the AI's mainframe is. Except maybe a chosen few. Such as Endgame's king, for example. And getting your hands on Magnus Ulrich, well... it's clear Endgame will do whatever it takes to protect that bastard. With Damos, I guess some people thought they could find the mainframe if they just had any king rank. So they took Damos and... well, they don't know for sure what happened to him, but they found, evidence that he'd been killed. Horrifically.
But he's alive. And eatable. That's so terrible. I don't understand. Why?
Oh, come on, Morgan. Look at this place. Pythia might be thriving on the surface, but everyone knows what the slums are like. And forget the other domes on this side of the planet. If you're not sitting right on one of the geothermal vents, it's always about scraping together what power reserves you can. While the day side has enough power stored up to last years, they'll sell to us, sure, at premium prices. And that never gets down past the upper class here, because no one can afford it. Are you shocked half the factions on the night side want to get their hands on the planetary AI, which can repair our power grid and forcibly redistribute resources from the day side? Endgame is supposed to be here for keeping peace in the solar system, so where are they?
They try to stay neutral, though.
They're not trying to stay neutral, Morgan. All they want is to keep that damn AI hidden from everyone. Because the moment people can get to King is the moment we all start fighting over them again.
King?
Ah, you wouldn't know about that. It's just the name the AI chose for themselves. It's not really common knowledge anymore, I guess. I learned about it back when I was at Endgame.
Interesting. So the AI chose King for themselves. Does the king have a queen? I'm curious. I assume it's not a coincidence it chose that name. But what's the significance? What's the symbolism? It was odd how Jack referred to the AI almost like a person. I'd always thought of it as, well, a thing. I suppose that the AI had always been more than just a computer program, though. Seems like people never stopped fighting over King, though.
Well, you're right about that. It's just that now it's all fighting in dark alleys and shadows.
It's a struggle to believe people want control of the AI to better Delphine. There are ways to do that even in the current situation.
Doesn't matter much who controls King. Delphine's always going to be a hellhole for those on the bottom. People just want power, that's all. Caris maybe could have done it with 2 king ranks. If Kay and his brother worked together, I reckon they could have found the mainframe.
Can we make this happen?
But he didn't want to use his sons that way. Didn't want to endanger them.
See, he does care about his kids. I'll give him that, at least. He's not completely mad with the want for power.
He's happy with his empire here. Unlike some others, he doesn't need to control everything.
Just most of Delphine. What a saint. Hey, I mean, you know what? I know he's still not good, but he could be worse.
Never said he was a saint. But after what happened to Damos, he does what he can to protect Caissa.
Caris is protecting Caissa?
You think he's not?
Well, Caris is so cold to him all the time. Most of the time, it feels like he doesn't even like Caissa that much.
You couldn't be more wrong, Butterfly.
I'm pretty sure Caissa agrees with me.
Caissa doesn't know everything about Caris.
Why are you telling me all this now? Giving me a history lesson of Crimson and the Fianchettos.
Well, you're engaged to the heir. It's about time you found out.
Right. And the real reason?
Caris wants to talk to you. Today. Just the two of you.
Oh boy, I'm so excited. What?
I was going to tell you after our session anyway, but now you know.
You're just going to throw me to him?
I'm not throwing you to him, Morgan. Look, Caris tells me things. He can't talk to Caissa, so I'm the one he talks to.
Okay. Bit weird, but okay. What does it mean he can't talk to Caissa? They're father and son.
It's complicated. Like most things here are.
Complicated. Sure. I felt like it was a lot more than that. Caris was still an enigma to me. It was obvious everyone here was terrified of him, even Jack in the right circumstances. Caris had initially wanted me dead, not captured. But he was the one who placed me with Caissa and orchestrated this engagement, which I found suspicious from the start. And now Jack was telling me that Caris somehow cared about Caissa, a son I'd seen him talk down to repeatedly, and that I'd never seen him show even the slightest genuine affection to. I don't want to talk to Caris.
He's still the head of the family. And you're a member of this family now.
Then he should wait until Caissa is back. And he's here! It's happening now. Prepare yourself, girl.
That would defeat the purpose, as I'm sure you can understand, Miss Leone.
Every hair on my neck stood on end at the sound of that silky voice. Ayo. Caissa was right. I really needed to improve my ability to stay alert to my surroundings when I was distracted. I didn't like being sneaked up on by people in this place. Especially not people like Caris Fianchetto.
Mr. Fianchetto, didn't realize you were coming down here. I received word Caissa is returning early. I decided it would be more efficient for me to come here than for Miss Leone to come to me. I don't wish to have our discussion interrupted by my son. Good thing I just told Morgan you wanted to speak with her. It's unfortunate the feeling isn't mutual. I would imagine you haven't heard many complimentary things about me, Miss Leone.
Should I have? I didn't mean it to come out as confrontational as it sounded, but there was a bite to my tone I hadn't quite managed to hide. If Caris was offended, he didn't show it. To my surprise, he barked out a harsh laugh coming further into the room.
Not unless someone was lying to you.
He waved a hand at Jack, motioning towards the door.
Jack, leave us. I wish to speak with her alone.
For all his joking, casual demeanor, Jack hesitated when Caris said that, just long enough for it to be noticeable. Then he nodded, shot me his crooked grin, and left me alone with the leader of Crimson, the most notorious criminal on the planet. Sometimes the strangeness of the turns my life took still caught me by surprise. I watched Caris warily as he paced through the room. This was the first time I'd seen him without bodyguards.
There's no need to watch me like that, Miss Leone. I have no intention of harming you, though I'm sure if my son found that we were speaking alone, he'd be quite panicked.
Not without reason, I assume.
Perhaps. My son has always been the cautious sort, especially where I'm concerned.
It's something Caissa and I have in common. He looked my way, studying me before his lips curved up into that same half-smile I was so used to from Caissa.
It's not a terrible quality to have here. Being too bold can lead to a swift demise.
Then I'll have to continue to watch everyone carefully, won't I? His smile widened.
A wise decision. Jack tells me you've been making quite the progress in your Psi training of late.
He's right. Though I'm surprised Caissa hasn't said the same thing. I assume he gives you regular reports on me.
I've found my son is quite careful with what he reports when it comes to you. Jack is much more forthcoming.
So Jack gave Caris information Caissa wouldn't. Did that make Jack a spy for Caris? Was this something I should tell Caissa when he got back? Surely he wasn't aware Jack was giving his father so much information. I feel like Jack is maybe in a similar position to you, Morgan, in that it's not really that much of a coincidence that Caissa found him again. Caris might have had something to do with that, because he knew Caissa would need some allies, and Jack's there as, like, his best friend / bodyguard. Like, Jack is the person Caissa trusts the most. He said that before he left. So it's both for his protection and it's a really it's a difficult situation. But I feel like there's some similarities between Jack and Morgan. I wonder what Caris wants to talk to us about. Maybe he wants to see if Morgan is actually in love with his son. Because he set this up, but maybe he's like, well, I should check and make sure she's devoted to him. Because he is invested in his son's happiness to an extent. And his protection. Having two queens protect Caissa would be very good. Okay, well, this definitely got a lot more interesting. A soft chuckle came from Caris. I narrowed my eyes. Why did he seem to find me so amusing?
You really are the sort who reveals every thought on your face, aren't you? That won't serve you well here, but I can see why Caissa might find it charming. Jack gives me more information than Caissa does, but it's nothing for you to worry about, Morgan. It's unfortunate I can't be as close with Caissa as I'd like. Over the years, it's become necessary to have an intermediary.
That's the word I was looking for. Jack is an intermediary between Caris and Caissa.
Jack serves that role surprisingly well.
Why would Caris need an intermediary with his own son? Caris laughed again.
I will have to tell Caissa that he must have you work on your poker face. I'm good at reading others, but you make it far too easy.
Even with him saying that, I couldn't quite keep the annoyance off my face. Something that amused him further. But he was so different from normal, it was suspicious. I really have to stay on my guard with this man. Caris had been poking around the room as we talked. When he reached the weights I'd been doing telekinesis training with, he pushed against the heaviest with his foot. Then looked my way when it didn't move.
Can you lift these?
I can.
Is it difficult?
Not anymore. Not even the largest.
Psi never ceases to amaze me. I understand the principles, yet it is still such a mysterious force. Both of my sons were Espers. Were you aware?
I was, yes.
Both Caissa and Damos exhibited king-rank Psi, and yet neither I nor their mothers were Espers. Strange, isn't it?
That is a very strange coincidence, to be sure. I can't remember if they mentioned if Damos was an an N-class king or an F-class. I mean, Caissa's an F-class. Are they both F-class, or was Damos N-class and Caissa F-class? It's still a weird coinky-dink either way. Neither of my parents nor any of my brothers are Espers either. Just me.
Your family must be greatly worried about you.
I bit back the angry response to that. Of course they were. He said it so dispassionately, knowing it had to be true. But he was the reason I hadn't been able to contact them in the first place.
I, too, worry for my children. Morgan, my eldest son was long sought after for his abilities, much as you were sought after when you were discovered. When Damos first awakened, I was young, naive. I had no idea being a king would become such a weakness for him. Assuming rank means power, it truly became an unexpected weakness. But by the time I learned of Caissa's existence, we realized how much of a target such a thing would make a person.
He crossed his arms over his chest and tipped his head back, watching me with a calculated look on his face.
I am not a good person, Morgan Leone. I am sure you've come to this conclusion on your own. Perhaps you even hate me for my part in dragging you into one of Delphine's darkest places. But one thing you should know about me is that I love Caissa. Every bit as much as I loved Damos.
I tried my hardest to keep my face neutral when he said that, because I wasn't sure I believed him.
You must be surprised to hear those words from me.
Yes. He just laughed at the obvious disbelief in my voice.
Even terrible people can love. Though I reckon that surprises you as well.
Anyone is capable of being terrible, I suppose. But it doesn't mean our hearts just vanish. I understand that much.
I agree with you. And this place, Delphine, it wants to make terrible people of us all. Perhaps you can't understand that yet, having grown up in the sun.
It surprises me to hear you say you love him because you treat him so coldly.
Yes, I do. Morgan, the shadows are deep on the night side of this world, and those that dwell here can't help but be influenced by them. Though somehow both of my sons seem to avoid that fate better than most. Damos was like a light. Everyone was drawn to him. Everyone loved him. There were times I thought he might truly change this place. And then that light was snuffed out. He was taken from me so easily. From me.
He stared down at his hands, the look on his face bewildered, pained. The raw emotion of a father still mourning the loss of his child. It wasn't an expression I ever could have imagined him wearing.
Caissa has always differed from Damos in so many ways, but he has that same quality. He is like a candle in the darkness, a small flame that somehow withstands the storm and continues to burn.
He looked up at me, jaw hardening as his expression went dark. I knew he was gonna ask this, I knew it!
Are you in love with my son, Morgan?
I can be affectionate, neutral, or cautious. Why are you asking? No, I'm going affectionate all the way. I barely admitted it to myself, and I certainly hadn't had this conversation with Caissa, so I wasn't sure why I had to answer this sort of thing for Caris first. But I steeled myself and met Caris's gaze. Yes, I am. The strangest expression passed over him. A fatherly smile that, for a moment, softened the hard lines of his face and somehow reminded me so much of my own father it sent a shaft of pain through my heart.
Good. Good. I'm glad to hear that. You don't have to be in love to be engaged or to stay by his side, but I'm pleased to learn you love him.
So the point of this engagement was to ensure I stayed by his side.
He has many devoted supporters already, and one of them is a queen rank. But your potential is so much higher as a natural F-class queen. It is a comfort to know you are supporting him.
Man, I am so happy that I got the correct read on this guy. I am thrilled. I'm thrilled. Thank you, Caris, for being what I thought you were going to be. I'm not often right about characters. Usually I'm like too optimistic, but I'm happy in this case. Supporting Caissa, not Crimson. His wording was subtle, but I caught that.
And I'm pleased that he is loved by someone able to show that sort of affection to him. After Damos left us, he didn't see much of it.
I still don't understand why you can't show him that you love him. Because, yeah, I was gonna say, it's because he loved Damos, and it was so obvious that he might be scared that the same thing will happen to Caissa if he shows he's too fond of him. Ugh. It hurts.
I doted on Damos, my first son. Everyone knew he was my beloved heir. Even before he was known to be a king rank, that made him a target. When Caissa came, I didn't wish to paint that target on his back as well. Damos, in fact, begged me not to. Can you imagine what it's like to want to hold your child and give them everything, only to fear people will turn your love into a weapon?
No. I can't imagine that.
So I allowed Damos to give Caissa all the love that I could not. But he is gone now, and I can only continue to watch Caissa from far away, and help him in what small ways I am able.
He set a hand on my shoulder, squeezing gently.
So I hope you will love Caissa well, Morgan.
I can't be a replacement for a father.
No. But Caissa will survive without a father such as myself. And I'll continue to watch him as I have. I'll watch the both of you now. I love my family, Morgan. Perhaps they're the only ones I love, but I can watch the rest of the world burn if my family is safe. And now Caissa is the only blood relative I have left. And I cannot express that love. Perhaps his safety is an excuse to cover my ineptness. Perhaps it's simply been so long I'm not capable of expressing love anymore. That being the case, I'll leave him in your care. Protect him well, Morgan Leone. Caissa has his own plans, and one day this family will be his. But while I'm here, I'm the head of this family. Everyone here answers to me. That includes you. So, consider this an order from the head of our family, yes?
Yes.
Stay by his side. Support him. Love him if you can. Give him all the things I cannot.
He gave me a thin smile.
You don't get a choice, of course, in whether you accept.
I'm already doing those things anyway.
Good. That's good. I believe I've taken enough of your time today, Morgan. Good day.
To my great surprise, he leaned down and placed a kiss to either side of my face before he left. Well. Are you gonna tell Caissa about this at some point, or? I'm trying to put myself in Morgan's shoes. Would I tell Caissa at some point that I had this conversation with his dad? I don't know. Oy, I'd want to. But I don't know what that would do. I don't know how that would shake things up. I froze as he did it, then watched him disappear into the hall without a word. And when he was gone, I sank to my knees and stared hard at the red mat. That was not what I expected. The turmoil he left in his wake wasn't because he'd scared me. On the contrary, he never before seemed so human, so indomitable and frail at once. And I didn't know what to think about it at all.